Hello everyone, welcome to Dark Fate Tarot. You are joining me for a deck collection video. This is not normally the kind of videos I do, so just please bear with me. I'm going to do the best I can. This is a VR to Carrie, also known as Tiara, Princess of Wands. We had a little bit of a chat about doing a video around our Los Scarabeo decks, and here is my collection. So yeah, thank you for joining me. Just kind of like so you understand, this particular video will concentrate only on Los Scarabeo decks, not the Llewellyn decks, because there's quite a few of those as well. I'm going to get very, very overwhelmed. My Los Scarabeo collection varies in terms of I do let go of some of them. I have recently sold a couple because they just weren't working for me. And then I'm always acquiring as well. So this collection is always getting curated. And I believe if something really isn't for me, I'd rather it just go to a new place where somebody else can enjoy it and I can reinvest whatever, you know, the value of it is basically. So that's how I kind of like work. There's definitely another 4 or 5 decks that are going to come into this collection just for Los Scarabeo decks by the end of this year. But, you know, bit by bit, that's how we go. So thank you for joining me. And, you know, unless you're very, very new to tarot, you probably know by now, Los Scarabeo is a mass market brand. So it is readily available on Amazon or your whatever platform or your local metaphysical store because it is a brand that produces mass market decks, originally from Italy. Okay, so there you go. So the very first deck, I'm going to try and do this as fast as I can, so just bear with me. So the first deck is Tarot Vintage. This is a rendition of the classic RWS booklet by Sasha Graham. Excellent. As you can see already by the box and by the look of this deck, it is got this parchment style feel, which I love. Look at those gorgeous backs. So yeah, I bought this deck because I'm not a huge fan of the RWS 1909 or whatever version there is. I just the colors just too much for me. But this has these beautiful blues and ochres and greens and maroons, which are very, very subtle and muted. I absolutely adore this parchment coffee stain styled effect. I don't know what else you want to call it. I just love it. I really like the fact that it has this very vintagey look, very worn look. The cardstock is great quality. It's easy to shuffle. It's not too plasticky. I don't mind it. I actually wish they'd done this in one of their special tuck boxes, but you know the box with this actually is quite nice too. It's a well-made deck. I think it retails around 20 euros. All of the Los Scarabeo decks, everything from like 15 to 25 to 30 euros. This is a very good quality deck. And if you're someone that's looking for something with muted tones and you don't want to splurge a huge amount of money and you're learning, but you prefer these kind of colors, these sepia tones, basically, this burnt effect, I don't know how else to call it, I would definitely recommend checking this one out and giving it a go. I think, I mean, it's my favorite. It's one of my favorite RWS renditions for sure. Okay, so after this, I'm now going to show another deck. Oh, let's get the Magician as well. I'm now going to show another RWS deck, which I absolutely love, but I haven't used very much lately. I think it's because the others have taken over, but it's still a classic and it's still well loved. And of course, that is my, let me just see if I can get this closed. It is my Golden Art Nouveau by Julia Massaglia. So now this deck I bought, I think in 2021, and I absolutely loved it. It is, of course, an Art Nouveau style, and then gold gilding has been added to the fronts of the cards. So here you go, you can have a look there. There you can see it there. So I really, really love this deck because it is, again, RWS, but now there's more movement of characters. It almost feels, the people feel more alive. I feel like they have energy in them. I feel like they, you know, I feel like the messages kind of like come out at me. We are back to a very strong yellow color. That is something that I do notice with this deck. But I feel like the artist has really, I don't know how they've done it, but it works well with the other tones. It also works well with the gold. I really love the intricacies in this deck. Look at that. That's been done so beautifully well. I bought this at a really good price actually. Now I think it's around 25 euros, but I bought it I think around 17. There's also a mini version of this. So if you really like this and you're using it a lot, you can also get a mini. Again, if you're learning RWS and you want something a bit different from the 1909 Pamela Collins Smith version, this might be one that you want to check out. It just gives you something different to look at. I spent, I have to say, when I started learning tarot, these decks weren't around. It was like 2014, I think, or something like that. So it was a really long time ago. And I have to be honest with you, I spent a year at least learning tarot. I spent like 4 to 5 days with just one card, really getting to know it, getting to understand it in the system. Then sometimes going back and going, okay, what's the connection between all the fours, or what's the connection between all the pages? I would do stuff like that. So it took me a good year to 18 months to really feel like, okay, I'm really starting to understand the system and work with cards in tandem to each other. And in that time, it can get boring to use the same deck. I mean, it did for me a bit. And that's why I would have appreciated a deck like this being available, because it would have given me something different to look at, but with exactly the same symbols. It's not like I'm going to be hunting for the pentacles in this, or I'm going to be hunting for, what do they mean by choices in the Seven of Cups and the different options we have, and buyer beware syndrome. And this clearly does all of that, but it does it in a very beautiful Art Nouveau way. And so, yeah, I really, really like this deck in that sense. And if you are looking for that variety, I would definitely recommend giving this deck a go. And again, you can get the mini. So if you're a learner, if you want a deck on the go as you're walking around, this is an option perhaps. So after this, and do bear with me, I do actually have to put them away, otherwise I'm just going to be really overwhelmed by decks by the end of this whole video. I have to say that. I don't know if anybody else has that when you're doing deck collection videos, but then you have like a huge mess at the end, right? So let's go on to a newer one. These are all, by the way, randomly done. Tarot at the End of the Rainbow. I think I got this last year in 2022. This is a lovely, beautiful, fun deck. It's joyous. It's based upon, I think, for me, this rainbow energy. It looks like there's leprechauns in it and all kinds of trolls and fairies and just everything that lives in the forest and in the woods. And I really, really love this deck. It's got these beautiful rainbow renditions, which I think are so beautiful. You've got the devil dancing with her in the Four of Wands. I think that this is a great deck. It's been done quite well, and I love this rainbow effect in it. That's all I can say. I really like the renditions of the people in the deck. It's got there's elves in here as well. There's giants, wizards, lonely women. That is the Empress, sorry. It's just, that's an interesting Empress. It's just an interesting, I love that as well, Nine of Wands there, that kind of I don't know, is that an ogre? Yeah, an ogre of some kind. Yeah, I really like the way the images have been done. It looks like a fun walk through the forest where you're going to meet lots of interesting creatures along the way, and you may have to, encounter them, fight them, solve the riddle, go forward. It's a bit of a game like that for me, deck like that for me. It's a bit of a game deck basically, and I really like it, and it always lifts me up in the mood. I like it in the spring actually. I like to use this deck when it's got spring vibes, but yeah, there you go. So I again bought this for a decent price. I don't know how much it is now, but again, I think it must be around 20 euros or something. And if you're somebody that likes things like the Green Witch Tarot or the Everyday Witch, is it the Everyday Witch? Yeah, I don't want to get that mixed up with the Modern Witch. This deck might appeal to you. That's what I was trying to say. So trying to put that back actually without also damaging it. Okay, there we go. Perfect. So the one after this is a new one in my collection. Wow, we're already there. This is Triple Goddess Tarot, and this is by, who's it by? Jamie Elford, artwork by Franco Rivoli. There you go. These are the sides as well. I bought this recently because I've been wanting this deck for a long time. Now it's very, very simple. There's also like another deck called the Silver Witch Tarot, which also comes in a big box or a small box. And that's got artwork, and that's got a guidebook by Barbara Moore. But I wanted this one, and I don't know why this one. I guess it was like this feeling of moon energy or goddess energy, or I don't know what. It is just another Los Scarabeo deck in the woods, to be very frank. But I like these kind of decks. I think, again, they're great to take with you for readings. They're not that difficult to understand what's going on. I mean, you know, there you go, lovers, you know, very, very straightforward. That's the devil. I like the spin on the cards, so I do need to sit with them a bit, but I really like the way that the renditions have changed a little bit. Again, we have a very castle, mountain, voyage kind of feel. So you are on a journey. Some of the cards are very modern. You get 2 fools in this deck. Some of the cards are very, very modern, and then some are very kind of like medieval looking. And I love that, you know. There's got a little bit of diversity, not enough for me, but still a little bit. But what I really like about this deck is that it goes between periods of time. I love that. Look at that 8 of Swords. Yeah, so I would definitely recommend this if you are looking for something to, you know, push you out. Like, look at the Hierophant. Sorry, I just had to pause there. That's the Hierophant in this deck. And there's the World card. Interesting World card, right? And here we have the 10 of Swords. But yeah, that's the Wheel there. So this is the Fool, and they have another Fool, which is, you know, a little bit different. Let me see if I can find it if you're that interested. Let me see. Here is it. Yeah. This is it. This is the other Fool card. So you can choose which Fool card you want to use. I kept the one with her in a slightly more modern dress. I guess that's how I want to say it. So yeah, you can see here very modern in some ways. And yeah, it's called the Triple Goddess Tarot. So I think it's meant to have a very strong Hecate energy. Is that what I'm thinking of? I like it because, again, it's another Los Scarabeo win for me in terms of just... It's not going to be difficult to understand what the card is saying, and I really like that sometimes in these decks. Okay, so that was quite a new one, actually. I think I only picked that up about 2 weeks ago. So then I'm going to a deck which is out of print. I think quite a few people have this one, but it is out of print now. And that is the Mibramig Magical Tarot. I saw this on someone's channel, a really old video. I don't know, the video must have been done about 10 years ago or something. And I really wanted the deck, but I kept putting it off. And then I heard it was going out of print. I don't know, or guessed it or something. And I quickly snapped it up. Like, I bought it so fast, knowing that, okay. Now, it has one card called the Happy Squirrel card, which is very interesting. But there you go. So this is the deck. I think it's a really oddball deck. It's like Los Scarabeo's more traditional decks of just strange. That's all I'm going to say, strange, and creatures, which are slightly a bit odd. But I sometimes like Los Scarabeo because, you know, their collection, for me, shows also the change and transition of how tarot has changed. So that's why, in a way, the Los Scarabeo decks have a lot of nostalgia, because sometimes the artwork harks back to a certain period of tarot design. That's what I'm trying to say. And yeah, this is I think this was done around 2010, this deck. I can't remember, actually. Don't know if I've got the copyright here. When is this deck from? Or maybe it's much earlier. I can't remember. But yeah, I think that this is one of those decks that, you know, they discontinued, but I'm so glad I managed to get my hands on a copy of it before it went. And it's fun. The creatures are fun and strange and oddballs. I just really love it when Los Scarabeo does the whole 7 of Cups and they actually do bother to do the individual options in each cup. So many times people skip that these days, which annoys me. But there you go. So it looks like it's hairy. It's got a caps on. I don't know what's going on there. So there you go. after this, we have, oh yeah, so this is a deck that I'm about to show you, which I haven't really bonded with too well, to be quite honest with you. And she kind of like, she's not leaving my collection, but at the same time, I'm like, what am I going to do with you? Because, you know, I don't know, maybe I will be working with her more in another lifetime. I don't know. Here we go. So this is the Ceccoli Tarot. I don't have the Oracle, and I'm thinking I might actually do better with the Oracle of this deck. So, truth be told, I do find some of the images quite disturbing in this deck. I think some people do anyway. And I know I've heard people who say, well, that's part of overcoming that aspect. And I guess so. But yeah, sometimes I also find her very hard to read as a tarot. So it's two things. One thing is if the key doesn't match the image, that's, you know, one thing. I can get past that. But when I'm a bit disturbed or I'm a bit confused, it gets even more difficult, right? So that's why I'm a bit like, So yeah, I've got her, but I don't know if I don't know what to say actually. I don't want to part with her either. That's the strange thing. I have the deck, but I don't want to let go of the deck. So I don't know. I think it's a deck that perhaps in a while I might come back to and work with. But I definitely want to try the Oracle. I think I'm going to have more fun with the Oracle. I do know that some of the artwork overlaps, but I think that the Oracle is because it's bigger and because it's larger images. So yeah, that was another part of this video. This is just tarot. I also have low Scarabeo Oracle decks, which are not going to be in this video, otherwise we're going to be here all day. I will do a separate video on that because that's a huge collection actually. But that gives you an idea of this deck. And I would not recommend this to those who are new to tarot, but you know, of course, if you're not new to tarot, you will have known by this deck by now because it is quite well known. So yeah, that was the Ceccoli. I'm trying to find the box for it. And what do we have after that? Okay, so after that, let me show you, yeah, this is a Fae deck here. And I love this little Fae deck here. This is Tarot of the Secret Forest. I still need to get her twin, which is the Fairy Lights Tarot. I only have one of them. Now this deck has got reversals, has got the image, the reverse of that image on the other side of it. And I find that very interesting. So it's all black and white on this side and exactly the same image rendered on this side. So for example here, you have the Nine of Swords. There you go. I love this deck, but you know, I'll just be honest with you, this got a lot of bugs in it, so you just got to be prepared that you are going to see a lot of bugs. But I like this. I like the fact that the bugs and the insects are about the same size as the humans at times. Just find the whole thing really interesting. Well, they're not humans, it's fairies, right? So, but yeah, I just find it all very, very interesting. Some of them are a bit strange. Look at that salamander. I just really love this deck, even though it's an oddball. I mean, it's a Fae deck, and I really believe now that this deck is just very much Sealy. It crosses with the other realm, and like Tarot of the Hidden Realm, you know, it's not going to be shy of giving you tough messages. I mean, that this deck will give tough messages if it wants to. You have to be ready with that. But that's part of the Fae's journey. You know, sometimes I feel like the Fae is like the sharpness of a knife or a blade, and you don't know which way the blade is sometimes going to fall. And that's part of the journey with the Fae, I think. For me anyway, you know, everybody differs in how they do it, but for me, that's part of this walk. Nature can be tough and harsh, and the Fae folk don't, I think, cover that up. They're very real about it. Okay, so who was that by? Can I see it quickly? Who is that? Who's the author? Oh, Lucia Mattioli. Okay. Okay. So the deck after this is going to be my Lo Scarabeo Fabio Lustrani Night Sun Tarot. Now, I really like this deck because it is Thoth based, and this was when I knew that I knew this from this deck that I had to go deeper into Thoth. Now, just please be careful this. Sorry, as in like there is nudity in this deck, but I love the depth of this artwork, and I like the way that all the symbology is there. I like the characters. I find them very interesting. This deck for me really feels like I'm going up and down a ladder. I don't know how else to say it. I really feel like it has that Kabbalistic approach. And it wants to take me higher and then bring me low again. And yeah, I mean, it's not an easy deck. I would not pull this out with anyone to read, you know. This is more, I think, a personal deck. It does have some images which are quite interesting or not always, you know, easy on the eye, but it's a deck that's going to challenge how I see death, how I see life, how I see the good and the, you know, the good and bad. I mean, like here we go, the Justice card. This Justice card is so interesting in this deck. I mean, look at it. Justice, is she compromised? For me, that's the first thing that came to mind. Is Justice compromised because of the way that that sword looks like it has been wrapped, you know? So there's a lot going on in there. The mandala behind her head, that flow of blue. So she's got the High Priestess flow coming through, but then we see the feathers, you know, they are the feathers of that bird. So, you know, the Alpha and the Omega. I mean, it's just, he's done a great job, Fabio Lustrani. Now, his other deck, which I'm going to show soon, is one of my favorite decks of all time. But I think for me, I need to really go down deep into Lustrani's thinking. Do I think that it will be correct or whatever, and that's the only way I believe? No, absolutely not. I don't just completely adopt a set of ideas like that. I feel a bit more like I need to be discerning before I really think that that's in line with how I feel or think. But I love studying stuff. That's what I'm trying to say. And this is a fantastic study deck. I've used Kabbalah and Tarot of the Spirit. I can't remember the name of the book. There's a big chunky book by Pamela Eakins, you know, and those are the books which I really like to sometimes sit down and just read their thinking behind keys, and then look at a deck like this and see, you know, how does that flow with this. So I'm someone that likes to dip in and out of like studying, and this deck does it very, very well for me. So now quickly move on from that. So yeah, this is where it gets really messy because I'm trying to now not bother putting them back and it's going to be a mess. There you go. Right, so another deck, and now we're going to go towards more, I think, yeah, towards like the last of the collection. So this is the Jack-o'-lantern Tarot. This is the same person who did, now the names, the creator of this has done another 2 decks, which are Renaissance based or pre-Raphael, that's it. And they're very, very popular. I like the artwork on this, and I love the pumpkins, actually. That's why I bought it, because it is quite Halloween-y, right? And so yeah, you've just all reminded me I need to do still my Oracle collection, Lo Scarabeo Oracle collection video, but bit by bit. I like to really look at the cards as I pull them out, you know, that's why sometimes I think I take too long. But I love the rendition again here of the images. So I do want to say the name of the author. It's not coming to me, but let me just try and get to it as quickly as I can. She did I think it's a she. She did others as well, that's why. But I can't get the name. Oh dear, I've made a mess of that one. Oh, it's Juliana Costa, Rachel Paul, a collection edited by, yeah, I'm pretty sure it's a pre-Raphaelite tarot that she's also done. That's why I was like looking at the guidebook and checking it. And yeah, I really think that the artwork is, and sometimes I do like to have a deck just because the artwork is interesting and different, and you know, it puts me in a different space basically. This is an odd space, right? I feel like I'm in some kind of a theatre thing or something. I don't know. It's just very strange. But there. Okay, so after this one, and now you see why I'm very, very picky on the decks that I do have, because I really have to have that feeling, right? So this is Tarot of the Haunted House by Sasha Graham, and then Mirko Federici, I don't know how to pronounce that. Really love this deck. This is the very first deck that I ever edged. Before that, I've never edged a deck. But this one, yeah. I edged this deck. I edged this baby. And now I'm dropping it. Hold on a second. Let me rescue the cards before I trample all over them. There we go. So I just love this deck. It is so easy. Sasha Graham has done on YouTube a collection of videos that you can find that gives her explanation behind each card. I just love this deck because it just reminds me of Hammer horror films. And yeah, it's just done so well. I mean, I remember like Christopher Lee movies. When I see this, I think of Peter Cushing and, you know, all those Hammer horrors. I mean, that one especially, look at that. But yeah, this deck is just, oh, look, it's just fantastic, that Five of Swords. Yeah, it's a pretty grisly deck, and I like it. I like it because it lives up to its name. It's the Haunted House, right? It's not too scary for me. It's not a deck that I would feel scared about working with. Look at that World card. But it's definitely a deck which, and look at that Six of Cups, huh? There were good memories once. So yeah, and yeah, this Ace of Swords, it gets everybody. So yeah, I'm looking forward to working with this one again actually this year. So there you go. That's Tarot of the Haunted House. Why is that upside down? I don't know. Okay. So now I'm just going to go on to my last, hopefully you're all with me still, my last 5, which are all box decks. So let's start with the Santa Muerte, which is, this is one of the first decks I bought when I came back to Oracle and Tarot decks in 2020. And I love it because it's just so beautiful. I think it's a beautiful deck. So I'm definitely picking up the mini version of this one. Yeah, I really, really love this deck. It's just so fun and vibrant. Of course, it's skeletons, so you have to be used to that. It's again Fabio Listrani, so it's another Listrani deck, and yeah, I think it's I love the theme. I like the vibrancy in it. Look at that, and yeah, I like Santa Muerte energy. It's I just used this deck recently for a reading I did for myself. And it was very spot on. It was so spot on that I actually read one of the cards wrong. I actually read the card wrong. And then later on, I realized that was incorrect, how I read the key. And what made it funny was that I think, what was it? Was that I mistook the Six of Swords for the I mistook the Nine of Swords for the Six of Swords in this deck. If I come across it, we'll see it in a moment. And it was funny because I first read it as moving on, obviously. But then when I looked at the reading again after correcting myself, realizing, oh, I'm reading that key wrong, it was so funny because it was like, it was even more of a, I hate to say this way, but a slap in the face of like, you're giving yourself a headache here on this issue. That's what that card said to me. You're giving yourself a headache and it's time to move on. And I thought Santa Muerte has some, look at that beautiful moon card. Santa Muerte has some interesting ways of giving messages, that's for sure. Okay, and I also have the Oracle companion to this, so stay tuned for my Oracle deck collection, because actually that's huge for Lo Scarabeo. Okay, so the next one after this, quickly moving on, is Tarot of Oppositions. This has been in my collection since 2021. I love this deck because I like the fact that it does reversals very, very well. I think it does anyway. I think it captures the mood of reversals very clearly. Now, I know some people don't really like the artwork. I am fine with the artwork because it is, for me, very typical Los Scarabeo style. So it's not showing me anything that I'm not used to, except for the fact that I love the rendition of the reversal. I mean, look at this. This is the Eight of Swords, right? This is the Eight of Swords upright. You cut yourself free. But the other way around, I mean, it looks bleak, right? So, I mean, look at this Justice card. When she's not doing too well, like it's broken, disheveled. Her, you know, the veil at the back, everything. And then upright, you know, she's standing tall. She's sitting tall and she's composed. And she has her house in order. And this is when we don't have our house in order, right? So I just really love this deck because I think it does reverses quite well. I like it because it is unique in that sense because it's shown on one side. Yeah, I love Los Scarabeo decks for this kind of stuff. You know, there's also the before and after tarot. People, you know, that question is of like, you know, what is a good beginner deck? These decks are great because they really show you the keys very simply to learn, you know. Here's the High Priestess. So this is her actually in fall. This is her not doing well. The pillars are cracked. Yeah. That, you know, she's, look at the way, you know, she's showing off basically. She's revealing, and the moon is not, you know, this is the dark side of the moon. The whole thing looks like she has been corrupted basically. And this is the other side of her. So yeah, I really like this deck. And, you know, if I really don't want to avoid an issue when it comes to reversals, I do go for this deck because it's not going to lie to me. It's going to tell me straight up. And sometimes I don't like the answer, but that's what it does. Okay, so that was the Tarot of Oppositions. Oh, wow, sorry, I'm going on a bit here. So the deck after that I'll show you, and then I'll leave my favorite till last. I think you all know which one's that going to be. Okay, so the one after that I'm going to show you is my Tarot Z. Now, I bought this in 2021. This was when it was the height of, you know, I was coming back and I was buying decks like left, right, and center, and I love this deck. This is still in order because I like sometimes to keep things in order. Sorry, I just want to move that there. I like to sometimes keep things in order because why? Actually, that's a good question. Why do I want to keep things in order? I just do. Sometimes when I want to be able to go through the deck, I love the story of this deck. This deck has a fantastic story in the guidebook. Let me just check again. Is it? No, it's Alejandro Golucci and Jamie Elford. So again, it's another Jamie Elford deck. Is the I don't know who's who actually. I think Alejandro Golucci is the artist, I think. Could be wrong there. There you go. I find this deck very confronting. It reminds me of 28 Days, the movie, you know, the one that's set in London from, I think that movie is 2001, 2002, something like that. I love this deck because it's very confronting. It's zombies. I mean, it's like, get real. Like, this is the end of the world. It's macabre. But sometimes I personally like these very photographic, surreal, I don't know what you want to call it, decks because they're graphic. It's graphic and it's delivering that message. And it's not for everyone. I'm not saying that everybody has to use these kind of decks. And if somebody says, look, you know, I want to do shadow work, but there's a way to approach shadow work, I believe. And I don't believe it involves having dark decks. I think quite the opposite. I think a neutral deck is key to shadow work. These decks for me are more for my play, just to be very clear. I don't sit here thinking, you know, let me look at the undertones of my behavior in X situation, I'll get the Tarot Z out. No, I use more actually questions, approaches, that are more solid based, and any kind of deck I use is going to be more neutral and guiding me in a grounded and well clear manner. You know, this is for me fun. That's what I'm just going to say very clearly. This is fun, and that's okay. You know, sometimes I need to have a little bit of interesting quirkiness in my collection. Yeah, so there we go. Okay, so then after this is going to come my penultimate deck for this collection. So we're near the end now. We've got another 2 to go and that's it, we're done. Now this is a deck that I bought around the same time that I bought the Tarot Z, I think within a week or 2 of each other. And I think you all know what's coming soon. It is my favorite out of the 2, and that is the Tarot V by Alejandro Colucci as well. And I just want to check here if I'm right. Let me just check something quickly. First, let's get the cards out because they're all sliding out. Oh, this is not in order. I don't think so. And yeah, the guidebook author is Charles Harrington. And I like Charles Harrington's writing, so there you go. Very lucky there. So yeah, now I've edged mine in this deep purple. Yeah, this Bordeaux color. Yeah. I really like this deck. This is my least favorite card, but this is a very gritty vampire deck. This is not that sexy seduction vampire. This is like the vampires which are like, yeah, you know, these people will, well, they're not these monsters are not going to, you know, have mercy. There's no mercy in this deck. What a 6 of Cups. Beautiful. Yeah, I really, really love this deck because for me, it really is like the Peter Cushing deck. It reminds me also a little bit of Blade as well. Not so much in terms of imagery, but in terms of energy. The energy reminds me of Blade. And yeah, I was thinking of some other movies as well. I was thinking of the one, the name has gone out of my mind. And it's got, the name has gone out of my mind. Underworld. Sorry, Underworld. That's what I was thinking of, that movie. Yeah, wow, look at that. Yeah, I really, really like this deck. It's powerful. It's grim. It's not a fun deck. I'll just be very clear with that. But it really is, for me, it's a vampire energy that I do recognize. And yeah, I'm so glad I've got this deck. So I will stop there. Look at that, Vlad, huh? But on that basis, look how they pair together. On that basis, let me show you my very last deck of this collection, of this part of the Los Scarabeo collection, because I just remembered halfway through that I actually have the oracles as well. Okay, so this is the deck that I saved till last, and of course it's Murder of Crows. This is by Corrado Roy artwork and guidebook by Charles Harrington. And yeah, it is my ultimate favorite Los Scarabeo deck. One of my favorite decks, full stop. Never mind Los Scarabeo. I also have, of course, as you all know, that you know me and you know this channel, I have the Joker Tarot on order, the Kickstarter. I only backed three Kickstarters in all my time, and the Joker Tarot is one of them. Now this deck is dark. It's very clear in what it wants to say. And it's very... This is the thing about this deck. When I look at it right now, the imagery feels cold. But when I work with her, she is my high priestess. And all of a sudden, there's an illumination. I thought I would not be able to work with this deck. And when I did work with it in February, I fell in love with it because there was no doubt what it was saying. I work with the Oracle, which is Journey of a Lonely Soul, which also has the same writer for the guidebook, and the messages were just so in tune. It's just one of my favorite decks. And I think that it will, I think I need to work with it again another round, and it will push me even further in my boundaries. It will further question my thinking. It will further make me feel uncomfortable. This is one of those decks where I did not feel alone as I did the work with this deck. I did not feel scared. I did not feel like confused. I didn't think like, what does she mean? I do love that Queen of Wands, that rendition of the Queen of Wands. So yeah, I didn't think I would like a deck like this. It was a gamble, and now I love it. So she's an interesting one in my collection, but definitely a favorite. And it's not a deck I'm going to use with other decks. This one will stay one-to-one. Not other decks, sorry, with other people. This will stay one-to-one. Okay, so on that basis, I'm going to wrap up now. I hope you enjoyed that. You know, we are kind of like going through, I don't know, Los Scarabeo season, I guess, here. If you want to do a VR, please feel free to do one. You know, you can join us here on the channel and do a VR to us. Perhaps you want to show all your Los Scarabeo decks together in one go, or perhaps you want to, like, you know, Carrie split up her collection. I'm going to be splitting up mine. However you feel like. I'm just showing you these because I thought they were nice to end on. But however you want to end, you know, sorry, show your collection, please feel free to and join in. And I think the hashtag is Los Scarabeo collection. I'll check and I'll use the same tag that Carrie has. And feel free to use that tag and tag myself and Carrie also, you know, if you are going to show your decks from the Los Scarabeo collection. So anyway, thank you for joining me today, and I will see you all soon.